Imagine spending 8 months applying for jobs. Not 10 applications, not 50. 427. You tailor your CV. You upload cover letters. You fill out endless application forms. You watch other people announce new jobs on LinkedIn, while your inbox stays silent. And after all of that, you get one interview. One. Now here's the uncomfortable part. What if the problem isn't your experience? What if the problem isn't your CV? What if the real reason you're not getting interviews is something almost nobody is talking about? Today, we're going to run a career autopsy. We're going to dissect exactly why one candidate applied for 427 jobs and got virtually nothing in return. And if you're currently sending applications into what feels like a black hole, you may discover this autopsy is actually about you. The case file. Let's start with the facts. Our candidate, we'll call him David, wasn't lazy. He wasn't unqualified, and he wasn't doing nothing. In fact, he was doing exactly what most job seekers are told to do. Apply. Apply again. And then apply some more. Every morning started the same way. Coffee, job boards, LinkedIn, application forms, more applications, more waiting, more silence. Sound familiar? If it does, comment below with one word. Waiting. Because I think a lot of people are stuck in that exact cycle right now. David believes something most job seekers believe. That success was simply a numbers game. The more applications he submitted, the greater his chances. Makes sense, right? Except after 427 applications, the numbers were telling a very different story. So let's begin the autopsy. Cause of failure number 1. He was applying for jobs, not targeting them. Here's the first thing I noticed. David wasn't applying for one type of role. He was applying for dozens. Operations, administration, business analyst, coordinator roles, team lead positions. Anything that looked remotely relevant. And at first glance, that sounds smart. Keep your options open. Cast a wide net. But hiring doesn't reward wide nets. Hiring rewards relevance. Think about it from a recruiter's perspective. If 20 candidates all look specifically built for a role, and one candidate looks like they could do 5 completely different jobs, who feels like the safer choice? The specialist. Almost every time. David thought he was increasing opportunities. What he was actually doing was weakening his positioning. He wasn't becoming more attractive. He was becoming harder to understand. And recruiters don't spend time solving puzzles. If your value isn't immediately obvious, they move on. Cause of failure number 2. His CV described work. It didn't sell value. Now let's talk about the CV. Because surprisingly, it wasn't terrible. No crazy fonts, no spelling disasters, no rainbow colours. Nothing catastrophic. But there was a problem. The CV read like a job description. Listen to this. Responsible for customer support, managed administrative tasks, worked with multiple stakeholders. You've probably seen phrases like that. Maybe you've even written them yourself. The issue is that none of those statements answer the question employers are actually asking. And that question is simple. Why should we hire you? Not, what did you do? But, what happened because you did it? That's the difference. Responsibilities describe activity. Achievements describe impact. Employers buy outcomes, not effort. The moment you understand that distinction, you start seeing resumes completely differently. Cause of failure number 3. He looked like everyone else. This was probably the most important discovery. When David's CV landed beside 20 other candidates, nothing stood out. Not because he lacked experience, because he lacked differentiation. Imagine walking into a room where everyone is wearing the exact same outfit. Nobody notices anybody. That's what happens in hiring. Most candidates use the same language, the same buzzwords, the same claims. Hard-working, motivated, team player, excellent communication skills. Recruiters have seen those words thousands of times. They're almost invisible now. The reality is harsh. If your application sounds like everybody else's, it gets treated like everybody else's. And that's exactly what happened. The surprising discovery. At this point, you might be expecting me to reveal some secret ATS trick or some magical resume template, but that's not what this autopsy found. The biggest problem wasn't the resume. The biggest problem wasn't LinkedIn. The biggest problem wasn't the job market. The biggest problem was positioning. David wasn't presenting himself as the obvious candidate for any specific role. He was presenting himself as someone looking for any role. And employers can feel that difference immediately. The fix. So what changed? First, we narrowed the target. One role, one direction, one clear professional identity. Second, every achievement was rewritten around outcomes, not tasks. Results. Third, every section of the CV started reinforcing the same message. Instead of saying, I can do lots of things, the CV started saying, this is exactly why I'm valuable for this role. That is positioning. And positioning changes everything. Because hiring isn't usually about finding the most qualified candidate. It's about finding the clearest candidate, the easiest candidate to understand, the safest candidate to choose. A challenge. Here's something I'd like you to try. Open your CV after this video. Look at the first half of the first page. Then ask yourself one question. Could a recruiter tell exactly what role I'm targeting within 6 seconds? Not eventually, not after reading everything. Within 6 seconds. If the answer is no, you've just identified a problem that might be costing you interviews. Let me know in the comments. How many jobs have you applied for this year? I'm genuinely curious. Because the number itself isn't the interesting part. The strategy behind it is. The conclusion. The lesson from this autopsy isn't that applying to more jobs is bad. It's that volume cannot compensate for weak positioning. David didn't fail because he lacked experience. He didn't fail because he wasn't trying. He failed because employers couldn't immediately understand why he was the right candidate. And that's a problem far more common than most people realize. In our next video, we're going to look at something even more revealing. A recruiter rejected a candidate in less than 6 seconds. Not 6 minutes. 6 seconds. And when you see what they noticed first, you'll never look at your CV the same way again. If you'd like a quick way to improve your CV today, grab the free guide linked below. The 15-minute CV Fix. It's designed to help you identify some of the most common positioning mistakes job seekers make. Then come back and share your biggest takeaway in the comments. Not only do I read them, but other people in this community can learn from your experience too. And if this video helped you think differently about your job search, consider subscribing. Because here, we don't just talk about resumes. We reverse engineer why careers succeed or fail.